All right, so next we're going to be adding and subtracting rational expressions. So I'm going to take you back a little bit to elementary school and how we would add and subtract fractions. Now, I know in elementary school they would teach you a lot of weird ways on how to add and subtract fractions, but you will probably hear some cues that you might remember when you're doing this. Okay, so for example, if you had 1/4 and you were adding 2/4, okay, the rule is that you just add the top. Okay, so 1, you add 1 plus 2. As long as you had a common denominator, you just add the 1 and the 2, and that gives you 3/4. Okay, so it's kind of like you have 1/4 and you add 2/4, you have 3/4. Okay. Now, if you did not have a common denominator, for example, say you had 1/2 plus 5/6. Okay, and if you did not have a common denominator, you had to create one. And the way that you would do that is, well, this denominator right here is 6, so I can make this 2 into a 6 by multiplying by 3. Okay, but you can't just multiply the bottom by 3. You would have to multiply the top by 3. That way you keep it even. Okay, so if I went ahead and did that, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6. So now we have 3/6 plus 5/6. And you can go ahead and add those together. 3 plus 5 gives you 8/6. And then, of course, you would simplify or reduce your fractions, whatever you got to do there. But you have to make sure that you have a common denominator before you add them. Okay. So if we look here, we're adding and subtracting rational expressions with like denominators. So if we notice here, we do have a common denominator, x plus 3, x plus 3. So then all we got to do is focus on the numerator. So with 3x and 2x together, we're going to combine our like terms. That gives us 5x. And then we have -4 and +5, and that gives us +1. All right, and then your denominator, you leave it the same. You just leave it as x plus 3. You don't write it twice, okay? It's just x plus 3. Just like over here, when we were adding these, we don't write the 4 twice. We just write the 4 once. That's your common denominator, okay? And that's it. That would be your answer. Okay, looking at the next one, here we have 6x plus 5 over x squared minus 3 plus 3x minus 1 over x squared minus 3. We do the same thing. So the denominator is x minus 3. That's our common denominator. And then on the top, we have 6x and 3x together. That gives us 9x. And then we have 5 and -1. We combine those. That gives us a +4. And that's it. Okay, now when you subtract them, it is a little bit tricky, okay? So we do have a common denominator here. That part doesn't change, x squared plus 2. You got to make sure you have that common denominator. And then on the top, I'm going to rewrite it, 2x minus 1. And the reason I'm doing this is because if you have a minus here, you do have to distribute the minus to each one. Okay, so it'll be -4x. And then that +4 is going to change to a -4. Okay, that's very important. Do not forget to distribute the minus, because if you do, you will not get your answer correct. Okay, once you distribute the minus, you go ahead and combine like terms. So you have 2x and -4x. Together, that gives us -2x. You have -1 minus 4. Together, that gives us -5. And that's it. That would be your solution. All right, the next one, we have a common denominator of 3x minus 1. So I'm going to write the 3x minus 1 here. 3x minus 1. I do see a minus here, so I need to remember I am going to have to distribute that minus sign to each one. Okay, so the first part stays the same, 3x squared minus 5, and I'm going to go ahead and distribute that minus. So it'll be minus 2x squared. Now it is minus 3x. A minus and a minus is going to make a plus 3x, and then minus 2 instead of minus 2, it turns into a plus 2 once we distribute that minus sign. We go ahead and put everything over the same common denominator, and we start combining like terms. So 3x squared and -2x squared, that is just going to give us an x squared. And then we have a plus 3x. I'm going to go ahead and put here plus 3x. And then -5 plus 2. us minus 3. The x didn't come out. And that's it. All right, so this is where it does get a little bit tricky, is when we are adding and subtracting rational expressions with unlike denominators. So if we look here, our denominators are not the same. Okay, so we cannot add our numerators yet until we get the denominators the same. So we first start off by factoring. So I'm going to factor this x squared plus 2x minus 3. Okay, and it gives me the little space here to write in my boxes. So x times x gives me this x squared. We're trying to get a negative 3, so 3 times 1 is going to give me a 3. Now, it does need to be a negative 3, so one of these needs to be negative. But the way you choose is you look at this one, the positive 2x. So if it's a positive 2x, then a positive 3 minus a 1 is going to give me that positive 2x. Okay, so now that we did that, we can see that the x minus 1, that's what they both have in common. Okay, but this one does not have an x plus 3. Okay, so to get a common denominator to make it look the same, I'm going to have to multiply the top and the bottom with that x plus 3, which is what it says here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that x plus 3 right here. X plus 3, x plus 3. And then this part I'm just going to copy down here. X plus 3, x minus 1. Okay, now that we did that, we can see that they do have a common denominator now. Our common denominator is x plus 3, x minus 1, x plus 3, x minus 1. And then on the top here, we're going to have to distribute. Because we're multiplying, we're going to distribute this 2x to each one. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 3 is going to give us a 6x. Okay, here it says x minus 4. Let me go ahead and put my common denominator as x plus 3x minus 1. And so we already distributed. We got 2x squared plus 6x. Okay, once we do that, we can go ahead and combine our like terms. Our common denominator, once we get a common denominator, this part does not change. And then we combine like terms. So if we look at the 2x squared, that has nothing to combine with. So it's just going to be 2x squared. But then we have a 6x and an x. Either that's going to give us a 7x. And then last, I have this minus 4. So I'm just going to write minus 4 here. That's it. All right. We have this next one. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did on the bottom. We look to see if we have a common denominator, which we don't. Okay. So on here, I'm able to factor the 2x minus 2. So this one is actually going to, we can take out a 2, and it'll be x minus 1. Okay, that's how we factor that one. So I'm going to rewrite it. It'll be 3x over 2 times x minus 1. I'm going to go ahead and erase it here. That way you guys don't confuse it. And then we're adding 3x minus 2 over x minus 1. So now we can see that they both have an x minus 1 in common, but this one has a 2 here in the front. Okay, so in order for us to make a common denominator, I'm going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by a 2 to get a common denominator. I'm going to go ahead and put this in parentheses because I'm going to have to distribute that 2. Okay, so now that we got a common denominator of 2 times x minus 1, I'm going to leave the bottom like that. On the top, I have this 3x. And then plus, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 2 to each one. So that gives me 6x minus 4. Okay, we're almost done. All we got to do is combine like terms. So our last step here, we have 3 x's and we add 6 x's. That's going to give us 9x. Here, minus 4. And then on the bottom, we're left over with 2x minus 1. That's it. All right, the next one here, we have x over x plus 3, x plus 7 over x squared minus 9. So we can factor the x squared minus 9. So this one, x over x plus 3 stays the same. And then plus x plus 7, we're going to go ahead and factor it x and x give us x squared. 3 times 3 gives you 9. In order for it not to have that middle term in there, one is going to be plus, one is going to be minus. Okay. Now, as we can see, they both have an x plus 3 in common. So that means this x minus 3, we're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by the x minus 3. X minus 3, x minus 3. All right. So now we have a common denominator. Our common denominator is x minus 3, x plus 3. Okay. So on here, before I write it out, I'm going to have to distribute this x to each one. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. And we are adding that to x plus 7. This is what's in the other numerator. Okay. Then from there, we go ahead and combine our like terms. So on here, our like terms are negative 3x and positive x. So we have x squared minus 2x plus 7. And so on the bottom, we have a common denominator. We don't have to change much, and that's it. All right. Now we have the subtraction. Remember, in the subtraction, we are going to have to distribute the minus. So first, let's start off by factoring. So here on the denominator, this one is going to factor, make our two sets of parentheses. X times x gives you x squared. And then we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you 6, but we'll add up to 8. The numerator stays the same. Okay. Or the numerator stays the same. We're going to go ahead and factor. X times x gives you x squared. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give you 16, but we'll add up to negative 6. So 8 times 2 will give you 16. It does need to be a negative 16, so one of these needs to be negative. In order for us to add up to a negative 6, the 8 has to be negative and the 2 has to be positive. Okay, so now we can see they both have an x plus 2 in common. What they don't have in common is this one has an x plus 6 and this one doesn't. So we're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by an x plus 6. Okay, but it's still not exactly the same because this one has an x minus 8 and this one doesn't. So to get a common denominator, they have to be exactly the same. They have to have all the same terms. So I am going to multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 8. Okay, so we go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 5x to each one. So 5x times x gives me 5x squared. 5x times negative 8 gives me negative 40x. Okay, don't forget about this minus sign. This is very important. Okay, we're going to have to distribute this minus to this side. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in parentheses so that I don't forget. Okay, we distribute this 6 to each one. So 6x plus 36. And all of this is over the same common denominator. Our common denominator is x minus 8, x plus 6. Now the order that you write this does not matter. X plus 2, as long as it has all three of those terms. Okay. So we usually would combine like terms here. I'm going to go ahead and distribute the minus. So this is going to be minus 6x. So minus 6x. And if I distribute the minus to the 36, instead of it being a plus 36, I'm going to go ahead and switch it out for minus 36. Okay. So once you distribute the minus, we're going to go ahead and combine the terms. So on the top, we have a 5x squared that has nothing to combine with. The negative 40 and the negative 6 is going to give you a negative 46x. And at the very end, we have minus 36. All of this is going to be over x minus 8, x plus 6, x plus 2. And that's it. All right, the next one. We do the exact same thing again. We start off by factoring. So on the bottom, x squared minus 64, x and x give you x squared. 8 times 8 gives you 64. You have to make one plus and one minus in order for you to not to have that middle term, sorry. And this is x plus 8. Okay, so then we notice they both have an x plus 8 in common, but this side does not have this x minus 8. So I'm going to have to add it by multiplying the top and the bottom by x minus 8. Okay, so then we have a common denominator. Our common denominator is x plus 8, x minus 8. And then on the top here, I have 2x squared plus 35. We have a subtraction again, so we have to remember to distribute this minus to whatever we get there. And so here we do have, what is this? Two terms here, x minus 4 times x minus 8. I'm going to go ahead and multiply a box method here to the side real quick. Okay, x minus 4, x minus 8. And the reason that we have to do it like this is because they both have two terms. Okay, so this gives me x squared, negative 8x, negative 4x, and positive 32. So that's what goes in this box. I mean these parentheses. X squared minus 12x plus 32. Okay, once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and distribute this minus. Okay, so it's going to be negative x squared. This negative 12 is going to turn into a positive 12, and this positive 32 is going to turn into a negative 32. So pretty much you just switch all the signs. That is how you distribute your minus. Okay. Then your last step is to combine like terms. So 2x squared minus x squared, that's going to give me x squared. 12x doesn't have anything to combine with. And then we have 35 and negative 32 is going to give me positive 3. And that's it. All over the common denominator. All right, we have one more example. All right, so on here, x minus 6, x plus 7, we can't factor, okay? So on this problem, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by the x minus 6 here. And then on this side, we're going to have to multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 7. Okay, so then from there, we have our common denominator, which is now going to be x plus 7, x minus 6. On the top, for the x plus 7, x plus 5, we are going to have to multiply that in a box because it is two terms and two terms. So x plus 7, x plus 5. That gives us x squared, 5x, 7x, and 35. So when we write it, it's x squared plus 12x plus 35, and we're subtracting. So remember, we're going to have to distribute this minus to whatever I get from here. Now this one's only one term. So all I got to do is distribute the x times x is x squared, x times negative 6 is negative 6x. Okay, I'm going to distribute that minus. So x squared, it'll be minus x squared. And then this, instead of being a minus 6x, it'll turn into a positive 6x. And we are ready to go. So x squared minus x squared, those cancel each other out. We have 12x's plus 6x's. We have 18x plus 35. And on the denominator, we have x plus 7, x minus 6, and that's it. All right, thank you guys. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.